Hey, welcome back. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever grown your entire business and then you decided to change who you served? And so, to be fully transparent, that's what I'm going to talk about in terms of how I am approaching 2023, especially related to content. So welcome back. My name is Dr. TK. I am a clinical psychologist and I am an intentionally abundant business coach. And so as we enter into a new year, what I thought that I would first share is my word of the year. This is something that I share in my community. I highly encourage you to take some time and actually think about what is your theme of the year, and then break that down into maybe one word or phrase that you can feel like represents how you're going to show up throughout the entire year. So for 2023, my word of the year that directly correlates with what I'm going to share with you today in terms of changing or enhancing who I serve, and also what I would call niching up. My word of the year is simple. And so the S is for sacrifices. Every year, I feel like in business, as a business owner yourself, you may make sacrifices in order to get what you want. And considering what I am going after in 2023, I know that there will be sacrifices with time. There will be sacrifices with vacations. There will be sacrifices with even the way in which I show up in my personal life. And what I mean by sacrifices is that it doesn't have to be a negative sacrifice, but there may be seasons where I'll have to double down and really shut things down or shut things out. And I'm fine with that because I've done it before. The I for me is for intuition. And what that really means is that I have to take some time and actually pay attention to my intuition. Your intuition will guide you into the path or to the direction that you're supposed to be taking. And sometimes we tend, as business owners and as human beings, we will ignore our intuition because we're listening to something that's online. We're listening to something that someone says who's not even going in the direction that we want to go in. And sometimes we're just listening to fear. Okay. Now, M for me is massive action. And so with everything that I do, especially when it comes down to goal setting, I am going to take massive action no matter what. The P is for process. I know that in order to grow myself personally, spiritually, physically, health-wise, and in my business, there are going to have to be processes that are either enhanced, removed, or created in order for me to get the desires in my life and in my business that I want. The L for me is let go and let God. Okay, so I'm a very spiritual person. And so sometimes what happens is, and let me know in the comment box if this has happened to you, sometimes we may say, oh, I want to accomplish 1, 2, and 3, but then you want to take over control and dictate when those things are supposed to happen. Now, I understand that we usually apply the SMART methodology. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time. And the time is really what gets people when you're creating a goal, because you want to declare that you're going to accomplish that goal by that time. But I'm here to tell you, even though that's fine that you can write it down, most of the time, things may not manifest in the time that you give it. Sometimes it may manifest a lot quicker. And then depending on what it is, it may actually take a little bit or a lot longer. Okay. But what I'm getting to is some things you need to, or actually all things, let go and allow the universe or your higher power to step in. Okay. And lastly, the E in my word of the year is extraordinary, which means that I'm going to show up in a very extra version of myself. Okay. And so sometimes I may feel like not dressing up, dress pretty casual, like a regular shirt, headband, ponytail. And then sometimes I'm going to be overly extra by the way that I show up, with my voice tone, with my body language, with how I dress. And they're still all authentically to who I am. But at the end of the day, I'm going to make sure that I'm providing epic and extraordinary services and content to my audience. Okay. So let's dive into what I mean by serving a different audience and niching up. Okay. So over the last 2 years, I've really dedicated 100% of my coaching business to serving mental health therapists, whether they are pre-licensed or licensed. And since 2020 specifically, I increased my revenue by 430%. And then every single year I've continued to increase, which is definitely a blessing. Now, one thing that I actually recognize by looking at the data and testimonials and talking to my students that I've recognized within the therapist community is that they were providing still a lot of one-on-one services. Some of them in my mastermind branched out to coaching, but they still were only offering one-on-one services. And at the end of, I'm going to say, the first 6 months of the year, a lot of them were expressing that they were tired. They wanted to move from the one-to-one to one-to-many services, but they were tired. They were burnt out. They finished the launches. They launched their digital product and they were happy with the results. But at the end of the day, they were still tired. And so what internally happened is that they ultimately felt defeated. Some of them were like, you know what, I'm just going to stick with this private practice because I'm fine there, even though I'm not making extra streams of income. I'm fine because they didn't want to be tired. And so after going back and forth with just listening to them, reading the feedback forms from how their months are going, how their quarterly projections of their goals are going, I had to take a look at how do I want to show up online to talk to those therapists who are tired, okay? So these are 3 things that I considered in terms of how I wanted to produce content for 2023. And even if you're not a therapist, I would highly encourage you to stay and tune in because I am sure that you are going to be able to walk away with one or multiple nuggets from the 3 things that I'm about to share with you right now. Okay. So one of the things that I had to ask myself was, what is it that I really want to capture in terms of content, of course, to serve my audience? And for me, the way that I answered that is I want to be energetically aligned, meaning I want to show up. I don't want to be forced to show up, similar to how some of us may feel forced that we have to exercise, that we have to drink all this water. It feels forced. And some people may know this already. You may know this. Once you start forcing yourself, your energy doesn't even feel the same. And so what I recognize, because I'm such a planner, is that I want to plan out my promotional calendar for my launches. I want to have a general sense for my team in terms of how many podcasts do I want to put out a week or a month, or roughly an approximate number. But what I don't want to bring into this year is being so regimented in, I need to create 4 podcast episodes every single Monday. Now that may work for some people. That's worked for me in the past. But as my life has evolved and enhanced, as my children are getting older, as my desires are changing for how I want to spend my time, right? I don't want to be put in a box. Okay. And so I really have to look at how do I want to show up energetically, right? The second thing that I wanted to consider is, who do I want to serve in this next season? So of course, I just shared with you that I've been serving only therapists for the last 2 years. Before then, I was serving therapists, ministry individuals in church, leaders in church. I was serving coaches, nurse practitioners, people who were opening up mental health businesses. And honestly, at one period, I was just serving people with information who wanted to have a growing business because they wanted to know, what did I do, even though I was a therapist in my business, leaving a 9-to-5 government job, and how did I grow my business? Okay. So over the last 2 years, I've been having an internal struggle. Okay. And so I met with my human designs coach. I've been meeting with her almost all this year. And I decided to meet with her right before the end of the year was up, around, I think it was right after Christmas. Okay. And so some of the topics that we had discussed is like a recap of 2022. And then we talked about what are the benefits of clearly serving therapists and how am I showing up? And of course, I love serving therapists. I love showing them even what's possible with someone who's in their field. But then we started to explore, what are other groups of people that have the same knowledge to a degree as therapists, and they are killing the game with serving their clients, specifically at a one-on-one level, but they're tired too. They integrate psychology in their business as well, but they just don't have the title as a therapist. But they also are feeling very tired and or lost, overwhelmed, and or quote unquote stuck. I don't like that word, but that's how people describe it when running and operating and growing a business. So let me be clear. Therapists, for example, go to school for a long time. We learn how to provide all these epic services, do all of these strategies, adhere to the fidelity of the model for all of these theoretical orientations, which is just a step-by-step process of how we show up and produce results with our clients. But at the end of the day, that's not enough to run a business, right? You can work with clients all day long, but if you don't have processes in the back office of your business, how are you going to continue to grow your business, let alone scale it, which means that you are working less while earning more? So what ended up coming out of that session is me going back to my roots of serving spiritual leaders, people who consider themselves as healers, people who consider themselves as service providers, right? And what if I pivoted not all, but some of my product suite to be opened up to therapists, healers, and service providers? And I just thought it was pretty fascinating to go through that processes, because I was given a season in which I went super hard and niched down, and I clearly saw the fruits of my labor all the way. But what I'm sharing with you is that I reached a sense of capacity. And I know that I'm speaking to the choir, because I believe that most new budding or seasoned entrepreneurs or business owners, I like to say the word business owners, right? But that's a mindset. A lot of people reach a threshold and they're like, there has to be more. I want more, but we don't know where that more is going to come from, meaning you've hit your threshold. I also received a message, a download from my higher power that says, I gave you a gift, and your gift has to be beyond the reach of just your classification of business owners known as therapists, because I've put you in front of other people before and I'm still sending them to you. And you have the nerve to send them away. And I said, oh, I received that download multiple times. So and one last thing that I considered in terms of content is, in terms of video specifically, why did I create my YouTube channel initially? So when I initially created it, and a lot of the videos you can't even see, it was really to just stay engaged with the people that I had either met physically, online, in person, and or online, whether it was for my health coaching business at the time, whether it was for my private practice. I just wanted to give them information when we are not meeting face to face. And so I was creating like exercise videos, what is psychology videos, tutorials for my college students, right? And then over time, I started to niche down. Therefore, I started to move away from the primary reason as to why I decided to start my YouTube channel. And over specifically the last year, I've been having a struggle of, I don't want to record video because I feel pressured internally that I have to create content in a particular way. Let me know in the comment box if that sounds familiar to you. Sometimes trends are thrown at us online through social media or through a YouTube video. And because everybody's saying the same thing, we may feel like we have to adhere to the new norm. And I'm here to tell you, you don't have to adhere to the new norm. You can listen to it, but create a boundary and really ask yourself and get still. What do you want to create? How do you want to show up? So for me, I love doing videos like this where it's more conversational. So talk back to me. I love recording podcasts, which is what I do simultaneously for those people who want to just do audio. I love going live, but I also love creating a memory video vault for my family, meaning they can see how I showed up in business. They can see my passion with how I served my community. They can also see me go out into the community, because I want to start capturing that with going outside of my physical office space. But more importantly, my children, they are able to watch themselves go to a vacation. And what's really key that I've seen come to fruition, which was one of my goals for capturing our family vacations, is that my children are able to see that when mommy works, she can work and have an abundant life. She can work and go to my soccer game or my basketball game. She can work and take care of herself. She can work and hang out with daddy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can have the best of both worlds. And I love that they can see a mixture of the two. But I also love that I've come to terms with how I want to show up online in 2023. And that is why I'm declaring, as of right now, that your girl is niching up. So niching up means this is how I'm about to show up for you in 2023. I am going to be creating content for individual business owners that want to grow or scale their business and have an abundant lifestyle. And they are either a therapist, they are a healer, or they are a service provider. And what do I mean by service provider? I can go to a nonprofit right now and talk to wellness coaches. I can talk to individuals who do case management. They're serving the community. Most of them have been trained how to serve people one-on-one. And when it comes down to growing and scaling your business, it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. So it didn't work. I'm shutting it down. Right. So that brings me to the conclusion of my very first video and podcast episode of 2023. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know what was your biggest takeaway of all the things that was shared. Now, before we wrap up, I do want to share that, and I'll put my link on the bottom. If you are a therapist, healer, or service provider, I have also expanded our conference, which is now named, meaning I changed it, Intentionally Abundant Business Conference. Is also known as a mastermind. We're going to be masterminding. Okay. And so what goes into this conference if you want to meet me in Vegas in 2023? Well, we're going to be meeting up in October, which means that you got plenty of time all year to get your business in order, right? What we're going to be focusing on is scalability, moving from that one-to-one mentality and strategy into a one-to-many. We're going to be teaching things like how to create your content for a year, what goes into a successful launch, how to create a Black Friday sales funnel. We're also going to be meeting up pre and post the live conference online via Zoom so that you all can meet each other, get to know one another. We'll do some cool breakout sessions, but also I'm going to help you define and refine your product suite so that you can walk into the room at the conference knowing which product or service, I'm going to ask you to pick one, which product or service do I want to zone in on for this entire 2-day mastermind experience, so that I can go all the way deep and take this information and retain the information. Okay. Now, the best part is you're going to be able to meet up with up to 100 therapists, healers, and service providers. We're going to be at the Palms Hotel in Las Vegas for 2 days in October. And let me just say this disclaimer. Some people in this day and age may be saying, well, what about an online course? Can I just get this information in an online course? Well, you can, right? You can technically. However, if we're talking about going beyond one-on-one services, beyond individual therapy or services, and working beyond providing, services by yourself, meaning you don't have a team, we're talking about beyond growth. You want to be in the room. The energy that comes alive in the room is like no other. Don't believe me? Head over to Instagram at Dr. TK Psych. And why don't you check out my highlights from, it's called TDA, because last year it was called the Therapists Deserve Abundance Conference. Check it out. I got 3 highlights. Now, let me be clear. The course can help you create the foundation for moving into a scalable business owner in the future, right? But at the conference, we make these things come to life. And odds are, because you're actively learning, you're going to retain more information. So make sure to secure your spot before the seats are gone, because it is limited seating, right? And make sure that you secure your spot for the conference. So please make sure to click subscribe. I really hope that you have enjoyed this episode. I hope that you've enjoyed my energy. I'm going to be showing up more, not just on the audio podcast, but also on YouTube. And I'm just really excited to share how you can have the both and abundant lifestyle and business. All right. So I will see you in the next video. Bye.